Chapter 26. Bad Timing. The door to the sealed tunnel in the wizard tower swung to and fro like a broken window in a hurricane as the last eddies of the magic drained away. A somber group of senior wizards stood at the door, waiting until it was possible to close it once more. It was essential that the tunnel be drained of all contamination before it was resealed. Septimus, extricated from the pyramid library, was there. It was important, Marcia had told him, that he saw the correct procedure for the decontaminating. Marcia had then hurried off to the stranger chamber, where Septimus guessed she had the culprit. Bernard, a big bear of a man with squashy features and disheveled hair, appeared. "Anyone need a break?" he inquired. And then, seeing Septimus, he added sympathetically, "Ah, hello, lad. Don't you worry now. He'll be all right." "Who will be all right?" asked Septimus. Bernard suddenly realized that Septimus did not know that Silas was in the stranger chamber. He looked embarrassed. Well, I meant to say, we'll be all right. All of us." "So Marcia's got the you-know-what back?" someone inquired. Some of the more superstitious wizards considered it bad luck to name the two-faced ring. "Just being, optimistic," Bernard flannelled. "That's a no, then," observed the wizard. A sigh ran through the group. "It's those two idiot Heaps in there, is it?" asked another, and then glanced apologetically at Septimus. "Sorry, apprentice, I forgot." "That's okay," said Septimus. He wished he could forget. "Not sure how many exactly," said Bernard awkwardly. "Must go," and he hurried off. An embarrassed silence descended, broken only by the mournful squeak that the door to the sealed tunnel had developed. Eek, 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 eek. Marcia was determined that to any visitor to the wizard tower it must appear to be business as usual. It was Septimus's job to deputize for her, so when Hildegard came to tell him that there were some important visitors for Marcia, and would he come now, please, he felt very relieved to leave the group of watchers. Septimus found Marcelus and Simon sitting on the visitors' bench, next to the discreet door to the stranger chamber, and he knew what they had come for. Marcelus got straight to the point. "Septimus, you know that I would normally be very happy to deal directly with you, but as I am sure you realize, this particular errand demands I speak to the extraordinary wizard herself. Is she available?" Septimus felt very uncomfortable. He wanted to say to Marcelus, "No, she's not. She's in a real panic. Someone has stolen the ring." But of course he couldn't. "Well, he began. "Marcia is busy at the moment," he decided to buy some time. "Would you like to come upstairs to her rooms?" Marcelus was dismayed. He knew that Septimus was not telling him something. His hopes for complete trust between the wizard tower and the alchemy began to falter. Marcelus had somewhat grumpily accepted Septimus's offer, when the door to the stranger chamber was thrown open and Marcia strode out. "Marcia," said Marcelus, leaping to his feet. "Got you." Marcia jumped. "Ah!" Silas appeared tentatively around the door. "Dad!" gasped Septimus and Simon together. "Oh," said Silas, feeling as though he had been caught red-handed. Marcelus had seen the panic that had flashed across Marcia's face when she first saw him. "Marcia," he said, "I thought you'd be pleased to see me. The fire is lit. All is now ready for the denaturing of the two-faced ring." "Jolly good," said Marcia. "I was just taking Marcelus and Simon upstairs," Septimus told Marcia, "so you can talk to them in private." But Marcia could not bear the thought of having to tell Marcelus that the ring had gone. "Tomorrow," she said. "Tomorrow?" Marcelus and Septimus chorused, one indignant, the other shocked. "Tomorrow," said Marcia. "Now excuse me, Marcelus, Simon, I really must get on." Silently, she gave the password to the wizard tower doors, and they swung open. The fresh outside air drifted in. Very deliberately, Marcelus looked Marcia in the eye. "To save me another wasted journey, I would be most grateful if you would send someone with the ring when you find—" He paused meaningfully. "Find what?" Marcia dared him. "The time. Goodbye, Marcia." "Bye," said Septimus apologetically, as the doors swung silently closed, leaving Marcelus and Simon standing on the top step. "Well!" Marcelus exclaimed. Alchemist and apprentice walked swiftly across the courtyard and emerged from the great arch. A gust of wind blew up Wizard Way, and Marcelus raised his cloak to shield himself from the chill and eavesdroppers. Marcelus had not defeated all eavesdroppers, however. Not far above him, returning to the wizard tower after a fruitless aerial search of the castle, flew the unseen ghost of Alther Mella. Alther had a wizard's mistrust of alchemists, and he wondered if Marcelus had anything to do with the theft of the ring. Now, he thought, was the time to find out. Still invisible, Alther swooped down low and followed Marcelus and Simon, flying no more than a few feet above their heads. "She's lost it," he heard Marcelus say in a low voice. "I thought she was quite calm, really," Arthur heard Simon reply. "I've seen her much worse than that." Not entirely successful, Arthur fought back a laugh. Simon glanced up. "There's some weird birds about," he said, puzzled. Marcelus looked at his apprentice sternly. "Simon, right now there are far more important things to think about than wildlife." "I meant that I believe our extraordinary wizard has lost—" Marcelus stopped and looked around. "It," he whispered. Simon stopped dead. "No, not the—" He, too, looked around and lowered his voice. "Ring? She can't have. She was panicking. I saw it in her face. She couldn't get rid of us fast enough. Septimus wanted to tell us but couldn't. And the wizard tower was in turmoil. Did you not notice?" "Well, yes, it did seem a bit frantic." "Frantic? It was like someone had poked an ant's nest." "Yes, I suppose it was." "It's an utter disaster," said Marcelus angrily. "Marcia has lost the two-faced ring, and she doesn't even have the decency to tell us." Arthur saw a look of horror spread over Simon's face as he realized that what Marcelus said had to be true. "Oh, forks!" muttered Simon. "Quite," said Marcelus. Arthur had heard enough to convince him that Marcelus had nothing to do with the theft of the ring. He did a quick backflip, and breaking rules number 2 and 5 in the EOW Post-Living Handbook, that ghosts of extraordinary wizards do not use the door password or frequent the public areas of the wizard tower, he did first one, then the other. Arthur then proceeded to break a few more rules for luck. He interrupted Marcia, Rule 12, disrespecting the current incumbent. He told her she should not have sent Marcelus and Simon away. Rule 8, seeking to influence and or criticize the current incumbent. And then he insisted she send Septimus out after them to bring them back. Rule 6, interfering with the policy of the current incumbent. He very nearly broke Rule 1, which was about foul language, but Marcia backed down just in time. From the front office of the Manuscriptorium, Beadle, who was showing his new clerk how to operate the day-book, saw Marcelus and Simon stride angrily by. A few minutes later he saw Septimus chase down Wizard Way. Some minutes after that, he saw Marcelus and Simon walking swiftly back, with Septimus beside them. A few seconds later the Manuscriptorium door crashed open, and Septimus came into the front office, breathless. "Beadle!" said Septimus. And then, seeing that Beadle was with a scribe, Septimus thought he should be more formal. "Chief Scribe, the extraordinary wizard requests your presence. At once." Beadle looked surprised. "Yes, of course, I'll come right now." He turned to his new clerk, Moira Mole. "Moira, when's my next appointment?" Moira looked at the daybook. "Not until 2:30, Chief. It's Mr. Larry." Beadle's ex-employer had taken to booking appointments to discuss the finer points of translation. Beadle was not at all sorry to miss him. "Moira, I'm going to the wizard tower. If I'm not back by then, please give Larry my apologies." "Okay, Chief," Moira smiled. "Any problems, ask Foxy." "Will do." Moira Mole, a plump girl with short, dark, curly hair, and tiny bottle-glass spectacles, perched on her nose, watched Beadle and Septimus leave. She peered around the front office nervously. She hoped no one else came in. But at 2:00, Marissa turned up. Marissa scared Moira. She reminded her of the big girls at school who used to pinch her when no one was looking. Moira told herself that she was not at school anymore, and more comfortingly, there was a big desk between her and Marissa. Moira asked Marissa what she wanted, but all Marissa would say was, "I want to ask Beadle something." Moira told her she didn't know when he would be back, but to her dismay, Marissa declared that she would wait. At 2:15, 2 rats knocked on the Manuscriptorium window. Moira recognized one of them as Stanley, head of the rat office. The other rat, a little smaller and a lot leaner, she did not recognize. She let them in and they jumped onto the daybook on the front office desk. Moira hoped they had wiped their feet on the way in. Moira was gaining confidence. Marissa was sitting on a wobbly stool, pretending to be interested in an old pamphlet. Moira had the comfortable chair and important things to do, and now she had a message rat. "Speak, Ratus." Moira said the words with such aplomb that no one would have guessed she had never said them before. Stanley prodded the smaller rat. "Go on, Florence. Do what the office clerk says." The small rat looked nervous and squeaked. "Go on," urged Stanley. "No need to be shy. You can't be a message rat and be shy, Florence." Stanley looked at Moira apologetically. "Sorry," he said. "Staff training." "Of course," said Moira with the air of one who knew all about the problems of staff training. "Shall I say it again?" "Oh, yes, please." Moira looked at Florence, who was staring at her feet in embarrassment. "Speak, Ratus." "Come on now, Florence," Stanley said sternly, "or I won't bring you out again. You will have to stay in the office and do the filing." Florence gulped and took a deep breath. "First, I have to ask, is William Fox here?" "Who? Oh, Foxy? Wait a mo. I'll go get him." Moira disappeared into the Manuscriptorium and returned with Foxy. "Is that him?" whispered Florence to Stanley. "Now, Florence, I won't always be here to ask, will I? You must ask him yourself." "So it is him?" "Possibly, but you have to ask." "First," squeaked Florence, "I have to ask, is William Fox here?" "Yep, that's me," said Foxy. There was a silence broken by Stanley. "Go on, Florence." Florence gulped. She stood up tall and took a deep breath. "Message begins. Foxy, please close the Manuscriptorium immediately and initiate lockdown. Keep enough scribes with you to guard all entrances and send the rest home. Right now. Let no one in, even if you recognize them. If it is me, I will give the password. If I don't let me in. Keep lockdown active until I return. This message is sent from Beetle, Chief Hermetic Scribe. P.S. Don't worry. Message ends." "Don't worry," said Foxy. "Yikes." And then, remembering the message rats, he said, "Thank you. Message received and understood." Stanley nudged Florence again. "Oh," said Florence. I regret that we are not at liberty to take a reply. The sender's whereabouts are confidential." "Okay," said Foxy. "Thanks anyway." "Well done, Florence," said Stanley. He looked at Foxy and Moira. "Thank you for your patience," he said. The rats jumped down from the desk, and Moira held the door open for them to leave. Foxy sat down in the front office chair with a thump. "Geez," he said, "that was the most scary message I have ever heard." Marissa, however, was rather excited by the message. "Can I stay too?" she asked. Foxy was not sure. "Well, I don't know. Beetle said scribes." "Oh, please let me. You never know. I might be useful. I am a witch, you know." "I thought you'd given all that up," said Foxy, disapprovingly. "Yeah, I have, but you know what they say. Once a witch, always a witch." Foxy reckoned that a witch might actually come in handy. "Okay," he said. "Bother," said Moira, who was looking out of the door, watching the rats run off. "Larry's on his way." Marissa jumped to her feet. "I'll get rid of Larry for you, shall I?" "Oh, yes, please," said Foxy and Moira in unison. Marissa shot out of the door. Foxy and Moira didn't know what Marissa did, but Larry never appeared. Half an hour later, most of the scribes had gone home, and a very nervous Foxy was starting the lockdown, a procedure that, as deputy, Foxy had had to learn. Foxy's hands shook as he peered at the new lockdown protocol that Beetle had worked out from some faded old documents, but with the help of Romilly, Badger, Partridge, Moira Mole, and Marissa, Foxy managed to get through to the end. "I think it's called battening down the hatches," said Moira, who came from a fishing family. "It's what you do when a storm is coming." Foxy had a bad feeling in the pit of his stomach. He didn't like storms.